الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. السلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. Whenever I begin talking about this particular charity, the Al Ain charity, and I would encourage everyone if you could all turn and face towards the screen. Whenever I begin talking about this charity, I always begin by thanking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for giving me the opportunity to interact and to be a part of this charity, because this is a charity that is honestly like no other charity that I've ever come across before. One of the main aspects of this charity, and one of the things that makes it so different from any other charity, is the dignity with which we hold the orphans that we take pictures of and the orphans that we support. No one picture will you find with this charity where a child is looking destitute. In fact, if you look at these children that are on your screen in front of you, they're like any other children you would come across, playing on the streets, inside the mosque, at schools, at nurseries. They won't look any different, but yet these are orphans. This is an example of one of the orphans that the charity supports. This is a young girl called Zahra, and this is someone that I want to start off this very short presentation just to explain and just to put a bit of background as to what this charity often finds. So here, the words are that the reality facing orphan children in Iraq is often worse than we could imagine. And the reason why that this caption is with this particular girl is because when this girl came to the attention of the charity, we found that she was living in a mud hut in the middle of the slums of one of the cities in Iraq. And when we heard that, we had a particular mental image in mind, but when we went out to go and see the conditions in which she lived, we found that actually it was worse than anything we could ever imagine. And this is something I want you to keep in mind as we progress through the slideshow, that what we think about when we hear that people live in mud houses and people live in situations where they have no roof and it's leaking, what we imagine and what the reality is are two very different things. Often the reality is much worse than something we could ever imagine. So next, there's a story of a young girl whose future changed from your generosity. If this plays. Nope. Let's give it another few more seconds, otherwise we'll quickly move on. Oh, okay. Just caused their program to crash. So, just to give you a bit of background, it may load, it may not load. This is a story of a young girl called Ayat. And she was someone who was very, very bright. But by virtue of being an orphan and being in a situation in Iraq where majority of the breadwinners are male, being an orphan in that situation means that every aspect of your future is cut off from you. So the charity came into contact with Ayat, and through the generosity of an anonymous donor, she received support to help to improve her situation. I think the video is now playing.
مثل ما تعرفون السادس هنا بالعراق مرحلة كل صعبة. طبعا ما كان هذا مكانه، كنت قاعدين بشقة كانت عبارة عن غرفتين يعني مساحتها 30. كنت أقرب بلكونة كلها ضوضاء وهوسة كلش هوسة، بس الحمد لله. شنو أمالك في المستقبل؟ أخوز دكتور، يعني ما أطلع فاشلة أو مجرد أكمل، وما أصل في مكان أقول ها هي بعد ما أدرس. أحب أتواصل دائما، يعني ما أقول ها هي بس بعد ما أقرأ. ذاك اختاريت الطب. إن شاء الله بالمستقبل بعد ما أتخصص وأتخرج وأتأكد إن يعني كفاءتي كلش زينة، إن شاء الله أداوم مؤسسة العين خدمة كل الأيتام اللي كانوا مثل حالتي. ولا حد يأس، يعني كل شيء سهل.
So that just encapsulates what this charity is about. And the last sentence that she uttered, where she said that because of the knowledge that she gained through the support, through the charity, she's now in a position to change the lives and the future of many of the other children that are orphans that are also part of the charity. This is a quick slide just to show the distribution of the orphans where they are, and Al-Ain is present in most of these locations across Iraq. In total, there are across actually 157 locations in Iraq, and there are over 1,500 Al-Ain employees on the ground identifying the families and providing support. So they're people that are in touch with the people that need the support the most. They're able to identify them with relative ease because they're amongst them, but also they are able to provide the support firsthand. And these employees are not paid through the charity, so any donation that you give will go directly to the people that are in need, and not a single penny is taken by the charity. Again, dignity is something that's very, very important. So when people go to the charity head office to receive money, they have set up the office like a bank. So it's like you going to a bank and withdrawing money rather than going and putting your hand out and receiving a handout. And that's something that psychologically makes, it may be something very small, but it's something that makes a huge difference psychologically, particularly for those children that are sitting and watching their mothers go up to these counters and getting the money. The other aspect of it is that medical care is provided. Obviously, children are young, sometimes they have medical needs, and over 34,000 courses of treatment have been provided, education, support through schools, universities. But one of the things that was set up quite early on was something called the Luminous Stars Project, which is a center that is dedicated to giving psychological rehabilitation to children. These are children that have gone through traumas that we cannot even imagine. These children have seen their parents murdered before their eyes. They've seen their mothers being attacked. These people have seen their entire families wiped out at the hands of evil people. And so psychological rehabilitation is something that's really, really important, because without it, people develop unnatural coping mechanisms. So when in medicine, there's a phenomenon called an adverse childhood event, which is what's used to describe someone that undergoes a trauma which affects them to such a degree that their coping mechanisms change. So later on in life, when they become adults, they are unable to cope and to respond in the same way that we would to a situation that's threatening them. So often they become very defensive and closed off. And so that's why psychological rehabilitation is important, to try to give them as normal a life as can be imagined. And alongside that, vocational training is something that is very important, because yes, you can support a child up until they're 12, 14, but eventually they'll get to the age of 18 where they're expected to have graduated from the charity and start to support themselves and their families. So what have we done to allow that to happen? So vocational training is something that Al-Ain have been doing for the last 13 years. And at the moment, there are 57,000 children going through a vocational training program. But since the beginning, over 90,000 have received support through this. So it's identifying areas where they can be supported, where their knowledge and their skill set can be developed further, and giving them a sense of direction by running programs. And in particular, a lot of donors amongst our community here in Leicester have given individual support to these vocational training programs. And alhamdulillah, they've been set up and they're flourishing at the moment. So IT skills, phone repairs, sewing, culinary school, these are not only practical but also theory-based as well, to give them lifelong skills as well, going forward in terms of communication, business planning, interaction with other people. And this is the current project that we're working on. And I'm coming towards the last few slides. This is something called Shajarat Toba, which means the tree of paradise. And this is a facility that's being built on Sharet Mitham at Tammar. So for those of you that have traveled into Karbala and have been amongst the parking places, the parking garages that they've got there, maybe on your way from Najaf to Karbala, you've stopped off there. That's the road. It's about a 10-minute walk to the shrine of Imam al-Husayn. And this is where this building is currently being constructed. And on the right is an artist's depiction of what it will look like after it's completed. We'll have a vocational training center, a psychological rehabilitation center, as well as a distribution hall, a multi-purpose hall, and the top floors will be hotels for the Zawar. And it's thought that the yield that's got from the renting out those hotel rooms will continue to go on to support the children. And it's envisaged that on completion, it will support 3,016 children. Now, to support one child forever, it costs £4,100. 1 square meter of this particular building is £850, or to buy one share, it's £20. This is just a slide just to confirm that 0% admin fees are taken from the money that you donate. So everything you donate is given directly to the charity. So in Leicester, just a quick summary of what we've done since Al-Ain came to Leicester, and by we I mean the entire community, what Leicester have donated so far. So far there have been 286 individual donors from Leicester. 354 sadaqah boxes have been distributed. 200 children have been individually sponsored. And the question is, can we beat this today? So just to quickly finish off, this is just one of the buildings that has been built. It's one of several housing complexes that they've completed. 55 houses in this particular one. But this is just the final slide, just to show there is hope out there as long as support is there from within. And tonight is the night that is like no other. It is the night that marks the beginning of the journey of the separation of Abul Aitam from the Aitam, of the separation from the father of the orphans from the orphans. And tonight is the night that, if you want, you can dedicate to changing and saving an orphan's life and an orphan's future. Thank you very much. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.